So is it quite common for mayors to have mayor followed by their Christian name?
No, it's usually Mayor Hodgson. But when I got elected, the Mayor of Watford, who's a friend of mine, said, look, elected mayors are different. If you want to be somebody that's a little bit more approachable, to choose Mayor Dorothy, and that's what she's known as. And she said, just makes people think that they're happy to come and see you and talk to you, and it seems to work. So, yeah.
Cool.
So it's usually would be Mayor Hodgson, but I'm much happy with Mayor Dave.
Mayor Dave.
I think
like
technically
Mayor Dave.
technically I think it's your worship, but
is it?
nobody.
Hello everyone, this is Adam here with the Hear2Listen podcast. I'm here with Max.
Easy.
And Jack.
Hello.
We've got a guest on today, so we're here with Dave Hodgson, also known as Mayor Dave. Hello Dave, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, hi, how are you all doing?
We're pretty good actually, thank you.
I'm very American there, didn't mean to sound American at all.
Yeah, I'm aware that we all had quite a trying day yesterday. We were on programme yesterday, and I'm not going to say that the energy's low because we could always bring it, but I think when we first walked into the office, we're all about a bit tired. You know, we've been working physically. How you feeling, Jack?
My legs are burning, proper burning.
Yeah.
Just your legs. My throat's burning as well. I think we need to give a little bit of context on why this is. We didn't go on a night out, or we didn't go chanting or anything like that, or singing carols. We done none of that. We had a full-on day of activities yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, part of the NCS delivery.
Yeah.
Bit of ultimate frisbee, mini Olympics. What else do we have? Just some random giant sausages.
Just balls of energy released from us in order to sort of create that atmosphere for the young people, because it was raining as well. It wasn't that rain that was just horrible rain, if that makes sense. It was that nice. For anyone that does sports and stuff, or goes out and does walks and stuff, when you get that mist, that almost rainforest rain, it was like quite refreshing, especially being hot and running sweaty and running around and all that sort of stuff. But by the time I got home, my feet were white and pruned.
That's a horrible image.
Pruned. They were literally, it was almost like I'd been sitting in a bath for 4 hours. It was just crazy. It was crazy. So, yeah.
But we're here, we've returned to the office. We've let our team leaders get on with their expertise, I would say, carrying the teams that we've currently got running as part of the NCS. What's it called? Moving Forward, I think, our current
next
one, isn't it?
Steps.
Or was it Next Step? Oh, gosh.
There's been Keep Doing Good, Next Steps, Move.
I'm sure it's Moving Forward.
Maybe.
Yeah, MF as it's called, yeah. So, yeah, we're going through sort of changes around the NCS at the moment. I do want to get to that. I do want to sort of get to bringing you in at that point, Dave, about what the difference is perhaps with the NCS, COVID and not. But first, I wanted to kind of introduce you fully and just sort of get a little perspective about what a mayor does. I think that's a question that's probably going to be most burning to the people that are listening. We all see occasionally turning up at events. There's the snipping of ribbons, but for the most part, I think I'm certain that there's a lot more goes on behind the scenes. So tell us a little bit about being a mayor.
Okay, well, there's two different types of mayors. There's actually more than that. There's the Metro Mayor you've seen. So you've seen Andy Burnham on the TV, and he's a Metro Mayor, so he covers a large area and has strategic responsibility. But most mayors are either the 16 elected mayors, so I'm elected by the people of Bedford Borough, and the Watford's got elected mayor in a couple of places in London as well, and then Liverpool has as well as a Metro mayor. Most mayors are ceremonial mayors who are elected for a year by the councillors to chair their council meetings, and they go. What they do is they usually have a charity, cut ribbons, but they're not part of the administration. So elected mayors, and that's what I am, have that ceremonial role, but we also lead the council. So I'm also leader of the council, and that's most of my time is actually doing that and making sure we have a budget that stacks up, and that we have services that are provided. So I've been reliably informed that there are 1,204 things that the council has to do by law. I'm not going to list them all because it's only a 45-minute podcast. And then we obviously things we don't have to do by law that we want to do. And so most of the time we do that. And at the moment we're going through a budget process that means we have to cut 25 million off the budget between now and 2024. And most of my time, now my 12th year, has been sort of cuts in that money we spend. So it's a lot of that, and it's really good because the ceremonial bit, the cutting ribbons, as you say, I've got some top tips for ribbon cutting if you ever want them. Don't use garden shears; they're not as sharp as you think. And if you go to a preschool, take your own scissors, because the safety scissors don't cut ribbon that preschools have. You gnaw through ribbon, you don't cut it. So top 2 tips for ribbon cutting.
Have you been there? Have you got that advice because you've experienced that?
Oh, sorry, I went to a preschool. They gave me the scissors that don't cut.
The little ones with red handles, the tiny little ones.
Yeah.
Those plastic. Yeah.
And I was gnawing through. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then sort of when you got to minus 100. Yeah, absolutely. And then at a garden centre, thought it'd be a great idea to use shears. Well, they just bend the ribbon. They don't cut it. So so there's some really strange. So that the ceremonial bit, the bit where you see with chains on, gets you invited to places that wouldn't want to see a politician there. It's about recognising what they're doing and celebrating the fact they're opening a new facility. So that's what I like it as a sort of a counterpoint to something that's opposite to the daily budget stuff where we happen to struggle between, do we pay for this or do we pay for that? You can't pay for both. There isn't the money. And so the ceremonial bit, the bit with the chains, gets you into a whole load of places. That, of course, has changed massively over the last 8 months with COVID-19. Haven't gone to as many places. It's very difficult. When you always want to smile, but you've got a mask on, it's very difficult to smile. Well, you can smile, because nobody can see you. But trying to make smiley eyes is an interesting one that you have to do. Make your eyes smile far more. So, yeah, it's a different world now.
Talking about the cuts, sorry, just to jump in there, you spoke about, obviously, how much was it as a large amount of money you got to cut back?
25 million.
25 million, yeah, I didn't want to get it wrong. A year. How does one do that, and what sort of, is it all in my mind, like straight away I've just got, like, when you get the judges around the talent competitions and they've got the photos of the contestants and that, and they're like sitting there and it's just like 6 people around there just sort of, oh no, but this has got this. It's got to take a long time to negotiate and to discuss. How many people are involved in that?
Well, eventually goes to the council and votes, and there's 41 of us on the council, and then before that the executive, where there's 10 of us. But officers, the staff at the council are involved. And I'll just give you an idea about the big things that we pay for. So about 42% of our money is spent on looking after older people. That's people care, of course, care homes, residential courses, domiciliary care, going around to help people at home. To either actually get up in the morning, get dressed, take their medicine, make sure they're fed, or actually in care homes. Adapting homes so people can stay at home longer. Whether that be stair lifts, ramps into the house, grab rails, walk-in showers. So a lot of money around that. We then have got, I am legally a guardian to 280 children. That's how many children we have in care as of Monday. So for any of the people watching, if you've got 2 or 3, I've got 280 that I have to look after. Obviously, we have a whole team, and we've got some great foster carers that look after them, and we look to that. And if children are taken to care, then there's usually some tragedy behind that, and they'll be in a pretty complex and difficult place. So it's not just find them somewhere to live; it's actually there's a whole lot of other things around in their life as well. So that's another big area, and obviously children at home supporting people. So we much prefer to leave the children with their parents if we can, but often need support so that that family will work. And at the moment, making sure that families are fed and children are fed. So we've supported the food bank, we supported charity called Faces that work with vulnerable young families as well. And then there's the whole range of stuff around roads, so making sure that we try to fix potholes as quickly as we can, try to get the traffic flowing better. So you see a lot of work going around Bedford about works we're doing. We're doing the biggest programme of junction improvements that's ever been done in Bedford Borough. trading standards. We've got teams going around, a small team of marshals. And then we've got a public health team, an environmental health team who are doing a huge amount of stuff with COVID-19. So the environmental health team go around and help advise businesses about what's safe and how they can work. And the public health team are looking at making sure that we collect all the data to see where we are with COVID-19. That's just some of the things we do. But we also got libraries, the Higgins, the Corn Exchange, and a whole lot of stuff. So in terms of cuts, one of the things at the previous round, we went out to consultation. We haven't closed the library, but what we did, we have something called Library Plus, where if you're a library user, you get a ticket. You can go in beforehand with a key fob and a number. So you go in a couple of hours before it opens to staff and a couple of hours afterwards. So we reduced the staffed hours, but increased the total number of hours. So that actually saved us money, but actually didn't close the libraries. So it's looking at different ways to do things. And of course, the other one is if people are able, it's much better if they do stuff online. We've got to make sure we have a catch-all net if people aren't able to for whatever reason. But if you want to buy a season parking ticket to go to the Ashburn Road car park, why don't you do it online? Why do you have to go queue at the customer service centre? If you want to pay your council tax, do it online. If you want to book a place at the Tidy Tip, do it online rather than on the phone. And that's all better for most people, but also cheaper for the council.
Does that mean that's obviously that's the way the future's going, really, isn't it? My dad's been one of these guys that he doesn't like doing things online. He really doesn't. It's only been since COVID that he's got online banking. He'll order on Amazon, and I think he's even entertained doing like a weekly shop. I don't know if he did go through with it. But he was very much on the fence. Didn't want to make that transition. He liked his old school. He didn't trust it, really. That was the be all and end all. I think he just didn't trust putting all his details in. But it is the way that the future's going. Technology, we speak about it a
Max,
lot.
if he start on Amazon, my dad started, and I'm not kidding, he must be buying something a day, spending all his money.
Oh, well, it gets the best of us.
Stuff he buys.
It does.
There's another one sitting right here.
I love Amazon. I'm invested.
Yeah, but no, it's my dad. I mean, I think that one of the stuff is that we need to support our local shops, because if we don't do that, we won't have local shops. Town centre is going to change. That's another thing we're looking at. We've had some grant money. We're bidding for some money for the town centre, but they're not going to be as much retail. And Bedford's really lucky that it's got a really high proportion of independent shops than I think any town around us. And looking to support them. So buying stuff online, you can be evicted, but actually remember, if we don't use those shops, they won't be there in 5 years' time.
Well, that's
won't be there next year.
That's the point I was going to get to, because by the sounds of it, obviously you're talking about sort of booking online and register online and getting your permits online and all that sort of stuff, and we're ordering food online, we're getting our clothes online. It's putting a lot of people out of work. At the same time, in this current situation, obviously a lot of people were out of work and potentially still are out of work, or businesses are shut down. We see it in town centres, driving through, shops are shutting down left, right and centre. And that's part of it. That's part of the transition to everyone shopping online. But I think it had a huge rush, a huge spike in getting there because of what the current situation, because of what we've just all been, what we're still.
Yeah, well, because you weren't allowed to go to normal shops. You had to do it online.
Yeah.
There was no other way.
Yeah.
So, mate, I imagine if from your part, sort of how are you finding all? Let's just talk about the here and now. Like, how are you doing and your team, like with the pandemic that's happened? How are you doing?
When it first started the lockdown, if we asked the IT department to get 900 people working at home in 2 weeks, they said it's impossible. When they had to do it, they did it and stepped up and did really well. So they're great. So there's a whole range of stuff that is different. But most people have worked successfully at home. A lot of the work that the social work has done has been done on Zoom or MS Teams, and we're doing that remotely. But there are still some COVID-safe meetings taking place, because obviously it's important. I met a group of Syrian refugees who we went into Borough Hall. It was the biggest room we've got, and there was 11 of us in it so far. It's about 5 meters between us all, because doing one of these meetings while having an interpreter there is really, really difficult, and they want to meet. So you can do that. You just got to think about how you do it.
Yeah.
And if you're going shopping, do go to shops, but just think about others and stand back. Don't crowd them. And a lot of the stuff I've been doing over the last sort of 8 months has been trying to get that messaging, trying to keep our infection rate down, because we don't want to have a Liverpool-style lockdown locally. If all the shops and pubs apart from the essential ones closed, that would really hit the businesses, and it would make a massive difference. Some village shops done very well. People during lockdown were going to village shops and been doing well, and people have rediscovered those and seen the importance of them. So there are some good things, and we've actually during this time, I'm going this afternoon to a couple of shops that opened. I'm going on Friday to a couple of new shops that opened. So there are people opening, but it won't be the same as it was. It won't be as much retail. There'll be more leisure and recreation, eating out, even as well. And I think there are things that will happen. I think going to pubs and bars, the ordering at your table, I think will never go away now.
There's so much that's here to stay. There's so much.
Yeah, well, why would you queue up behind a load of other people when you can order on your phone and say it will come to your table? You don't need to queue, and that just makes it safer. So there's a whole lot of stuff that
some of the best conversations happen in those queues, though. Some of the best conversations.
Only with you, Max. You
I talk to anyone. And the thing is, I always bump into people in the queues and that chat. I do miss. There's certain bits that everyone will miss, but there is. We've always said it. To be fair, there's a lot of. It was sad times for a lot of people, and it was a struggle. It's been hard for us all in different ways. It affected us all in different ways, but when you look at what's happened and there's a lot of good that's come from this whole situation, whether it is like people finding their purpose again and sort of little businesses just thriving and the local support from restaurants and all that sort of stuff. Did you see?
Good.
Oh,
Nonna Joe's.
No, not even Nonna Joe's. Subway in Biggleswade. So they're giving away, I believe, like free pack.
Yeah, that's what Nonna Joe's doing.
Are they doing it as well?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Subway in Biggleswade are giving away free Subways and packed lunches for school kids that need it, because obviously the whole situation with that. But yeah, look at the the emissions and all the eco side of it as well. The good that's come out of it. People keeping up with their hygiene, and like you say,
exercise, everything.
There's pros and cons to it, but when there is a lot of good, so it's not all down, is it? Like it's not all negative.
Yeah, but Max, you picked a really good point about sort of different people are responding different ways. I think it will be, particularly in the big lockdown, what's the effect of people's mental health?
Yeah.
Whether it be my dad, 87, and he's missing going to his programs, his old blokes club where they chat and tell each other jokes that have been around for 50 years and still laugh. And going to church, so they used to have coffee. He doesn't do that. He doesn't meet the people he used to meet. So at that end, I think we've seen that, and I think it's very difficult for older people that have had 80, 90 years of meeting people suddenly not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
And then at the sort of younger end, though I think that talking to head teachers, the youngsters are really glad to get back. To actually see their friends again. But there is, for some people, they said, are much, much quieter. And it can't help but some people have an adverse mental health effect. Some people will thrive in it. And we've got to remember that some thrive and some don't have exactly the opposite and really, really struggle.
Yeah, my granddad's he's a very active man, very, very active man, and he's sort of late 80s, and he used to walk. Yeah,
you realise how old you're making me feel there, don't you, Max? Your granddad's the same age as my dad. I'm now feeling much older. I'm feeling like more than the 61 I really am. Yeah.
Age is a number. Come on, it's a number.
It's
a level. It's a level up. It's the level up. He used to swim. He used to walk at least a mile a day. He's a boxer back in his heyday. So very active anyway, all through his life. And this has really sort of knocked him and his mental state and stuff. And he's just, you can see like it's not good, like you say, that end of the spectrum when you got the older generations, whether it's through fear of the unknown or to me it's just that what you said, it's that
and
social,
being more vulnerable.
Yeah, and the feeling, that as well, but there's just taking away that social element, the mixing with other people.
And I think that's what we've got to get through to the communities as a whole during this pandemic, that older people, if they do get COVID-19, are much less likely to survive and much more likely to have a really bad effect. And I think at the moment we're about 25% of people with COVID-19 have no symptoms at all. So if you go and mix with a group of friends and you get COVID-19 and then go to sort of go and see your granddad, you could be, without knowing it, you could be handing it on to him, and that could be a massive effect. And just it's about saying, look, if you do, very odd, not to give your granddad a hug or shake his hand, just don't do it.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to understand that you've got to do, you know, you've got to old elbow and stuff like that. That's really difficult.
Well, yeah, that's really it. We haven't been around it, to be fair, because my uncle's very, very sort of strict with it. My dad, if it was down to my dad, he'd be like, just go and see him. Do you know what I mean? That's his sort of attitude. And my granddad very much wants us to go and see him. But at the same time, like you just said, I don't want to be the one, because I'm fully aware that at his age, a normal flu, a cold, would potentially do real harm. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just made me a little bit more careful.
My dad put some great, he's on Instagram. 87, he's on Instagram.
Nice.
And he put
social dilemma.
Yeah. He put some pictures of his grandson and a girlfriend coming around, and they're up in Scotland. And they actually they sat outside in Scottish rain while he sat inside Chackington. They had all the waterproofs on and they were absolutely drenched. So for an hour and a half, they sat outside he gave them a cup of tea, put it down. They had a cup of tea and they sat outside so they were socially distanced. Absolutely soaked they were. So you can do it. You know, if it's good weather, and we might have some sometime, you know, if you're lucky enough to have a garden, sit in the garden some distance away and do that. But that's about if you are meeting up. But obviously, make sure it's all the 6 to apply for as well.
Yeah.
Dave, I wanted to go back. You talked about businesses. I was curious about how the third sector is getting on in light of everything. So if we look at sort of charities and community interest companies and social enterprises, what's your sort of sense of how they're getting on, how they're surviving or adapting?
It's a massive difference. So to say they're all doing the same thing is wrong. So what we've seen in the beginning, that things like the food bank, from what I'm hearing, they're rejecting a fair bit of money from the government money about making sure we feed people. So they were, at the beginning, it was very difficult because there's nowhere, the normal places where you dropped off the food wasn't happening. So, you know, churches weren't meeting, and that's where they got a lot of their food from. But people have been generous again, and we've just seen faces who are supporting families have actually raised a lot of money over the last weekend. But things like the non-essential shops, you know, the AIDS Concern shops, the Heart Foundation shop, all those charity shops where are so essential for businesses just didn't exist, so their income stopped. The events that people have, whether it be charity balls or whether it be a sponsored event, just haven't happened. So the income spree has stopped. But there's still volunteers out there that wish to do something. And we've seen so many people, those volunteers for either the NHS volunteers or the Borough Council or the kindness groups that happen. But I think there is a real concern about the money for the charitable sector going forward, about the loss of income over the last year will be, and how they're going to come back. But we are seeing some very generous people giving money to them. So I think it was Max said about people not having jobs. There are also people that have got a regular income that aren't making the expenditure. So, you know, people that are working from home that used to pay 5,000 quid for going into London are no longer paying the 5,000 quid. Yeah. You know, they might be paying a bit more for heating now because they've got to have the heating on home, but it's not 5,000 quid, not unless they've got the temperature really whacked up. You know, there are some people that, I mean, my petrol, I didn't think I'd travel too far. My petrol has just gone down. When I have to buy petrol now, I think, what have I done the last month? You know, I used to buy probably every fortnight. Now it's most every month. There are some people that are better off because they've got a regular income and they're not making the expenditure. And there are some people that are considerably worse off as being made unemployed. And we've seen some big numbers there, some big numbers of people applying for universal credit, those numbers going up. So it varies. I think there's a general reduction in income because the activities that people have been doing haven't been happening. And the other thing, of course, is that a number of people that volunteered have been the people that shielded themselves. So a number of their volunteers were vulnerable people that just said, look, I'm just staying at home, I'm going to get my shopping delivered, and I'm going to just look after myself. and understandably, quite rightly, I think. So it varies. But then the other side is we've got probably a greater need. So we talked about particularly mental health that we need to look at. So that will increase and is increasing. We've seen far more by that. And then the physical health side, we really don't know enough about long COVID and what long COVID is. And then the whole range of stuff. In particular, we've heard a lot about cancer and the delayment in treatment, that other conditions as well are not being treated as quickly because the NHS is quite rightly struggling to cope, not quite rightly, but dealing with COVID-19 and making sure that we minimise the number of people in hospital, because there are people with COVID-19 in hospital, and therefore, you have a chance of catching a hospital.
Leading on from what you're saying about the third sector, so one of the things that we've experienced as a community interest company ourselves, social enterprise, people might know it as well, is the impact that it's also had on us, but in different ways. And one of the things you said earlier about the adaptation that can happen from a third sector point of view, I'm also aware that there's funding available. So in the time that people might not have had to generate money, I feel like they've got more of that opportunity now. So when we look at organisations like CVS, Community Voluntary Service, that regularly put out updates on funding that's available, it's something that we are looking into ourselves, but we're not quite as driven maybe as other organisations out there because of how we're funded, which is primarily through the NCS at the moment. So it's our primary fund. And obviously, we've experienced great changes with the NCS that were very much led from up top. We are sort of at the mercy of the NCS Trust and how they want to adapt the programme, although they took lots of input from us as well. I thought it was quite a collaborative affair. But in the difference between how an NCS normally runs, so if we look at sort of last year, we had 1,000 young people go through the programme. And this year, much reduced numbers. I'm guessing between sort of 100 and 200, Jack?
I think it was 100.
It's way down. Whatever you do, whether it's 200 or 100, you should do 1,000.
Yeah.
So much fewer. Someone's going to pick me up my grammar there.
Someone's going to pick you up on the grammar. Don't worry, I get picked up by Adam. It'll be Adam that does it.
The grammar police.
The grammar police.
But yeah, I mean, it linked in with what you're saying about third sector, that a lot of the support that I imagine a lot of organisations would have received would have been from our young people, with each of the teams of 15 or 16 tasked out of that 1,000 with doing their own individual project. And have you seen a difference between, say, a normal NCS running previous years and currently?
Well, yeah, but I mean, we are the community projects. I suppose that some of the ones that have hit me most have been when they've gone into refurbish an older people or a residential accommodation garden that's sort of looking really, really tired and not used. And it's probably needed more now. So, if people can't go for a walk, can't meet their families, can't go for Sunday lunch with their families, they've got a garden that's overgrown. There's some great projects that have in the past where you've gone in, and the youngsters have managed to acquire paving and all kinds of stuff by either by fundraising or by shaming a garden centre into giving them stuff. Encourage them to think about their community. That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
And those kind of things that we won't see till we come after COVID. When you go in and see next year, it's not going to be overgrown. It's going to be like a jungle. So it's going to be hugely different. And I think one of the things with COVID-19 and as one perception, it will take probably years to figure out what the impact's been. So what the impact on those 800 that weren't in NCS, what the impact on the places where you were doing those groups, those challenges were happening, and that work in the community is happening. So we won't see the outdoor space, we won't see the community room being painted because we didn't have the money to do it in a particular care home or community centre. And those things, because they aren't there now, we don't see that. So the long-term effect, and I'm pretty convinced that the full effect, 5 years, forget the economic effect, which somebody on TV was saying it took us to 2006 to pay for the Second World War, and think it will take as long to pay for COVID-19. So that does mean that none of us will be around by the time we pay for COVID-19, if that's true. But in a shorter term, it's the impact on the young people not having the ability to actually go and do a project and engage in that kind of thing, that's a big thing. And then the recipients of that help and support not having that. And in some cases that will be quite significant, in some cases it won't be. But we really won't see it until we're able to get through this and beyond lockdown and find out and start to talk to people in a normal way. I think we'll have more of these than we used to, but I'm hoping we'll maybe next year do the same. I can sit around and have one of those a set of cans and some really flash looking mics. Because I really feel the peace then. Yes, it will impact Adam. What I don't think we know is how.
Talking about the knock-on effects and stuff, you mentioned it earlier, and it sparked something. I was going to raise it earlier, but I literally lost trail of thought. But it's like you mentioned that a lot of people have been able to donate because they've not got as much expenditure and overheads or whatever to pay out for, because they've realised they can do it all from home, which is amazing. I found that out after speaking to our IT guys at the beginning of lockdown. It was Nathan from Node. Shout out Nathan. And he was like, there's a lot of their customers that they work for realise, actually, do you know what? This is working fine. Get rid of that overhead. That's it. So a lot of money saved. But then, right, that's a good thing, because some of those people, like you say, are donating and putting it to other causes and helping other people out. But then the people that they were renting from are losing out. So there's a knock-on effect there that is somewhat negative to another person. It's a positive for someone, but they're also taking away the yogurts out of that person's fridge because do you know what I mean? So like you say, it's hard to judge. Yeah. It's hard.
No, I've talked to some landlords, and the amount of money. So Wells and Co just opened a new brew point, a new brewery on the A6. You can actually see all the beer being brewed. They own about 230 pubs, and I think for 3 months they were taking no rent, many of them. That's 230 pubs, no rent. And you think, you can put a figure on how much rent. Whatever way you spin it, that's a lot of money to not be getting in while you're paying your staff. So I think that's a big scale of it, but it's a Bedford company that will affect that. And then there's other landlords that will need the money, and there is going to be a change. The office space, particularly, there's some of the big companies in London said, actually, why do we need to have the most expensive place to buy space in the country, and we've got a great big tower block? We're going to have to change how that is, because we need to actually have social distancing. We maybe need some more meeting rooms and less offices. And we're still trying to figure out now how we do it. So we've got a number of people in the council that actually don't need to want to come back. They've set up their office at home. It all works. The broadband is good speed. I think we're all going to work in home broadband and think we want better quality. That'd be a big thing of how we can get that. I mean, I was thrown out for one day. I think I've been into the office about 5 times since lockdown. But one day, my wife was chairing a national conference. She said, I need the bandwidth. You are not to take any bandwidth, because I'm chairing this conference of 300 people. I can't drop out. I decided the best course of action was not to be at home, so I could never be blamed. So I went into the office to use the broadband in the office. I thought, actually, it's safer than actually anything. But that will be happening. If you've got 2 or 3 people, and I think young people at the beginning of their career, we're really worried about them and the council, for the council staff, about if it's one lounge and 3 bedrooms, are they all sitting at the end of the bed doing their work in the day? That's not good for your back, your posture, your well-being. So I think that, and that happens around the country, not just for our work, but people start off their career tend not to have a spare room they can go and work in. And how do we work with that? So I think it's going to be different, Max. We've got to figure out how we do that. But you're quite right. The knock-on effect of the landlord not getting the money, therefore he can't pay his staff, or his shortfall is really quite big.
So I mean, it's easy for us to say, because like you said, it affects people differently. But I think we have always been mindful that actually, what we go through and how we we've evolved because of this, haven't we? Really, when you look at what we do as an organisation, all right, we didn't have the sum that we got, but we have evolved, and we've sort of took the bull by the horns, if you like, and sort of just adapted to what we've had to do. But there is always someone out there, and we know that is worse or off, and it's going to be affected in a sort of more negative way. But no, that's the most frustrating thing is no one, and even hearing what you're saying there, like with the knock-on effect with the debt of the country and stuff, and because it's not gone away, it's still not over, is it? So this is going on, and we'll never really know how much that sort of how bigger impact that's going to have. Say, but you said we may not be around. You're obviously not a fan of Elon Musk, because just saying, I might still be here if the Neuralink comes out. I might still be here, so I'll let you all know. I had to get it in there.
It won't be cheap. Definitely won't be free. You need to start saving your pennies if you're going to pay for Elon Musk kind of stuff. You know,
I've already started saving. Don't worry.
He can afford it. Not unless you're on his kind of money.
No, I know. What are you saying? He's already got it. I said that the other week, didn't I?
You did.
Perhaps it's something that the council can commission at one point, but that's just a joke. So we're going to wrap up now, Dave, if that's okay. I didn't want to go without, like, if you wanted to link our listeners to something, or is there any websites or support networks or anything like that you want to mention?
I think that the key thing is if you need to know stuff about COVID-19, and that's including the crisis grant and the money, if you've actually got to isolate that money the government's got, you can apply for it on the council's website. So it's bedford.gov.uk/COVID-19, no hyphens, just COVID-19, and all the information about the current infection rate, the current guidance, and actually the money that's available, whether it's crisis grants for you and your family if you're unable to buy food, and there is money available if you need to do that, or if you've actually got to isolate for 14 days and you haven't got any income for that time because you're on a 0-hour contract, go to that. So www.bedford.gov.uk/COVID-19, and all the information's there about that. Keep an eye on it. Please remember hands, space, face. Even get it right way around this time. Hands, face, space. And they're all the sticks. You just please stay safe. If Emily, you can edit that bit so I get it right, that would be really useful.
Not a problem.
I'll make sure we do that, don't worry.
But you know, we need to stay, and as you said, we're not through it yet. We're having more infection rates than we've had before. It's going to be difficult, and I hope everybody doing the NCS stuff, the 100, 200 people you've got in, are really enjoying it, because everybody I've seen is that when I've been to the events where you actually do the awarding the end of this process, people really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it, and I hope the people that are currently there are getting as much out of it.
Yeah, we hope so too.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for joining us, Dave. If you'd like to stay on the line beyond the music, that'd be great. We'll just finish up there. But thank you very much for being here to listen.
Cheers.